Hello and welcome to Hammer Factor episode 36. Now normally we record these and there's virtually no editing done before we actually publish them. This time we had some serious connection difficulties as we had John Weld in Taiwan and Brendan Wells in Costa Rica, and we seem to have overloaded Skype. There were several things we had to cut out of the show, one of which is we have Hammer Factor t-shirts available. This is the collector's edition Hammer Factor t-shirts. You can go to hammerfactor.com and get a t-shirt. We're going to quit sending those out on December 8th. So December 8th is your last day to get a collector's edition Hammer Factor t-shirt. And we want to give a huge shout out to Brendan Wells for making it happen from down in Costa Rica. Okay, let's get into it, and thanks for listening.
You're listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
Kayaks, things are not approved, or like playboating. Sup.
Well, we can put SUP on there. It's on our logo. All right, are you guys ready?
Yeah, we're gonna get Zora. I'm running out of steam quick.
Is it morning or night? What time is it over there?
It's 7:45 in the morning here.
7 morning. Okay, so you're just getting it going.
Oh,
all right.
fuck, China, huh?
I'm in Taiwan, yeah.
Lewis, did you just get on that train?
Oh yeah.
All
I
right.
was like, world's internet's kind of shitty. Maybe.
Are you like
I
in
just
a?
figured it was fucking Morgantown.
Are you? All right. Well, welcome to Hammer Factor 36, live from China. On the show, as always, we have North Fork champion, policy director for the Outdoor Alliance and Poker Maverick, which I'm going to dig into a little bit later with something I want to talk about. Lewis Geltman. Lewis, you're on the mend. How's it going?
Good, man. Just cruising along. I don't know, working, trying to like running, stretching the wing.
Yep. How is the wing?
It's hanging in there.
You doing TheraBands?
Yep, onto the TheraBands. Lots of stretching.
Military press has always worked for me.
My friend,
Yeah,
our
that.
friend now, Hammer Factor's friend, Dr. Weasels, once mentioned to me that TheraBands were like dental floss for your shoulder.
There you go.
That's right.
Do it every day or every workout. FYI.
All right, without further ado, we have John Weld, Whitewater legend, co-owner of Immersion Research and Gear Design Maverick. John, so you're in China right now, coming out from the Hammer Factor.
Hold on, I'm in Taiwan.
You're in Taiwan, I'm sorry.
Taiwanese would be very, they want you to know there's a distinction. Let's put it that way.
Okay, and so we're going to get into a little bit more of what you're doing over there and kind of that process, which I find super interesting. But before we do, we have a couple announcements we got to get into. First, huge shout out to our top of the show sponsor, Canoe and Kayak. Canoe and Kayak has been leading the paddle sports media hustle for 45 years, reaching an unprecedented audience of nearly 500,000 people. With in-depth articles like the one dealing with the fall of the Grand Canyon Escalade project, which I'll link to in the show notes, there's no more compelling way to get your paddle sports beta than Canoe and Kayak. Check them out, canoekayak.com. And I read this article on the Grand Canyon Escalade project, and I just want to throw this out there. Lewis, you're a gambler and a paddler. Are you losing that much if, like, day 3 of your self-support trip, you can get on a gondola, head up to the casino, get a few rounds in? Okay. All right. Seems to be a non-starter here. Anyway, I'll have that in the show notes.
I'm just like trying to think through what the Trump tie-in is to all of this. Like, is it going to be like a Trump Taj Mahal style arrangement up there, or like?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm envisioning.
Play a quick 18 in the middle of your float.
Do some shots of whiskey. Stumble down to your boat.
I think we're all kind of realizing we're done past joking about this.
Yeah, it's definitely no fun, and we're going to get into it in a second. But big thanks to Canoe and Kayak. Pretty cool for coming on as our first sponsor.
Absolutely, yeah, that is amazing.
So, Mr. Weld, what are you doing over there? Fill it before we get into our gloom and doom segment, which we have some viewer mail to kind of lead off. You're in Taiwan right now.
Right.
Do you go over there and make your gear and have some carry-on boxes that you bring home? How does it work?
Is this like a new episode of Made?
Yeah,
this segment.
This is a version. I think so.
I know this is something I wanted to pick up too, because we did boats, but I didn't really think I'd be the person talking about gear. I was really hoping to get someone else to come on, but
well,
I can do it.
You got a good history. You've made boats. You've made paddling gear. You've pretty much made every part of a kayak at some point in your career. Are you over there with like rubbing elbows with Yvonne Chenard, or how's it work? Fill me in.
Geez, this is such a politically charged conversation, and I've written about this at length on sitez.com. I wrote an article called "Made," and Lewis actually has a remarkably popular piece on there as well. If you guys want to really take a deep dive into this world, you can read that article on sitez.com.
I highly recommend this article Weld's talking about that he wrote. It's really interesting if you're interested at all in where things are made and how things are made overseas. You should check it out.
I'll be sure to include a link to that in the show notes. Sorry to interrupt.
Before I say anything, I have to, and I say this all the time, and I am defensive about this, but we make stuff offshore, and it's not because we necessarily choose to do that, or that's something we want to do, or we're trying to save money, because it's not really a money-saving thing at all. It's simply that we are designers and brand managers, like many companies like Patagonia or North Face or Marmon or Astral, and we simply do not want to run a sewing factory. Not only do we not want to do that for a living, but there are countless financial reasons why it makes no sense for a company like ours. It makes a wide variety of products that you require a lot of people for short periods of time with gigantic sums of machines. And we live in a place with very low population. It makes no sense for us to run a sewing factory, even if we wanted to. I have run a sewing factory before, and it basically involves 8 hours a day of fixing sewing machines, which is fine, and it's interesting work in its own way, but not what I want to do for a living. We have to contract our work out, and there is no contract work doing this kind of stuff in the U.S., with a couple of exceptions. If there was, we'd gladly do it. Going overseas for us is not a money-saving thing at all. I know that doesn't seem like it's true, but it is. Most, if not a huge portion of our cost of goods sold come from the materials that go into these things. And then people will review and say, well, Kokatat makes stuff domestically, and they do, but they run a sewing factory, and they do have federal military contracts that pay for that. And they also live in a place with a population base big enough to support that, and they made choices to do that. And I think it's fantastic they do that. But it is a choice, and they do make sacrifices because of that. We have a very small, dedicated, kayaking-focused staff. That's all we do. But Kokatat staff is in a very different place. It's a sewing factory place. So once again, it's great, but not what we do. And similarly, take smaller companies, like people maybe just make spray skirts. If we made just one product, perhaps we could employ a small team of people doing that one thing. But we don't. We make a bunch of stuff. Anyway, that's enough said on that. So we outsource our production. The only place left outsourcing production in the world is right now in any kind of quantity is Asia. So that's what I'm here. Basically, what IR does is we design products, and we have a group of really experienced sewers and pattern makers like myself and Jess Whittemore and up and coming people like Todd and Ian Van Stoutmeister. And we design stuff at IR, make prototypes, and test it for about a year or so, depending on the type of product. Then we prepare a tremendous amount of information on that product that specifies everything from the fabric to the zippers to the little piece of webbing that pulls the zipper to the seam tape, everything. And for a dry suit, this document maybe 40 or 50 great patterns and a sample to one of our trusted factories here. They're not cheap. They're not sweatshops. One of the factories is co-owned by a very well-known paddling brand. All the work we do is expensive work. It's not like we're using a sweatshop where we work with the factory to make these. And that's what I'm doing. So a couple, 2 to 4 times a year, I have to come over here, and while they're making this stuff, I have to make sure it's all getting made correctly.
So there's a lot of clarification there, but specifically, is there a dialogue that goes back and forth with the initial designs and the plans, and you order the individual colors and materials, and then when you get there, it's all ready to be assembled? Or how does that process actually work?
Well, the first thing you do is you come up with, we come up with sort of let's use a dry suit, for example. We come up with like a wish list of what we want this dry suit to look like. And changes on these kind of like $1,000 garments have to be very iterative. You can't make big, huge, sweeping changes one year to the next because the chance of failure is too high. You can't risk it. So we make very small changes. Maybe we may make the zipper a little bit longer, or move the zipper placement an inch or two, or we change the design in the crotch of the pants because we've seen some wear there, something like that. And then we start talking about colors of the product. We've always really enjoyed designing things in new and interesting colors. I think if you've known IR over the years, that's kind of been one of our hallmarks. Then we start designing the color of the garment, how it's going to get blocked out. And I mention this because colors are actually kind of a big problem. People are like, you should make, like, take a women's dry suit or a dry top, and they say you should make 4 colors of a women's dry top. You can't do that because you have an issue hanging over your head called MOQs, minimum order quantities of fabric. Typically, a fabric mill wants to make 1,000 yards of one color. So if you want 3 colors, you have to order 3,000 yards of fabric. And this fabric generally is in the $10 to $12 range. And then you have to make 1,000 women's dry suits out of this. Or say 800 women's dry suits, or however many. If you have 3,000 yards of colors, that's going to be about 1,000 women's dry suits. There is no way in God's green earth you're going to sell 1,000 women's dry suits in a space of 10 years. You may sell more, a decade or more. So you just can't do that. You have to be really, really, really careful with colors. It's not like Burton, where they'll make 10 versions of a snow jacket, 10 different colorways, and even their worst selling colorway will sell 100 times more than our most popular color ever. So they can make, dozens and dozens of dye lots of fabric. We have to very carefully pick 4 or 5 dye lots, 4 or 5 colors we want to use within our palette. If we make a dud, it's extremely expensive. You guys remember years ago we made a plaid. Remember that plaid print?
Oh yeah, I can't forget that.
We ordered 1,000 yards of that, and we sat on that fabric for years until Pat Keller started wearing it. All of a sudden, it disappeared. 3 years after we made it, long after the bank was furious at us for having this inventory sitting on the shelf for so long, Pat Keller came out of the heavens, gently kissed me on the forehead, and started wearing those plaid-colored dry top suits. And it was all
So
then we play colors, we get lab dips, and then the package is starting to come together. And I do all the pattern work in a CAD software program, and we send the patterns over there to the factory. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
I think you did. And so now at this point, everything's set up, and they're actually assembling your products, and you're right there along them. Or are they doing like a prototype version, or how? What are they?
You get the first thing you do is we're pretty good at sewing, and so we're a little more advanced than some people. So we'll send them fully graded pattern sets, small, medium, large, extra large, extra large. A lot of factories, a lot of designing companies just send what they call a grading sheet. They just say make the chest 4 inches bigger, and they don't really do the pattern. We do all the pattern work ourselves, and we also have the ability to sew a pretty much complete sew sample, like a production quality sew sample. It may not be the right color, exactly the right fabric, but it'll be construction-wise exactly. They send us a counter sample back, and we usually do about maybe 3 rounds of that to get it exactly right, and then we sign off on it. All this has to happen pretty far in advance too. Like I'm over here working on 2019 products. This will be stuff that's going to a year from now, and it's starting to go in production right now. So that's about the timeline for this stuff to get done. Yeah. So, but then eventually there's a point at which you have to go and watch the stuff being made and being sure it's being made correctly. And if you've been working with the factory for a number of years, usually things go pretty smoothly. Like I'm over here about to go to Vietnam where we make a lot of our drywear, and we've been working in this factory for a long time. And so it's kind of just a pro forma exercise because they've done it enough. But the last thing you want And right now, I'm watching 2018 stuff come off the line. Stuff we started last year is coming off the line right now, and it's about to get put on a boat and sent to the U.S. But the worst thing that happened in the world in this business is for you to get a container of dry suits to show up at your shop and like have all the necks sewn in correctly, and they won't fit over people's heads, which has happened. And then you have to sit down and unpack 1,000 dry tops and dry suits and whatever, and start pulling the neck stitching out and fixing them at your place in time to ship them. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
So you're going from Taiwan down to Vietnam on this trip?
Yeah, we do some work in Taiwan. Taiwan's great. And I'm going to say it again for all you couch explorers at home. Take a minute while you're at work or over the weekend. Go to Google Earth, take a look at Taiwan, and imagine kayaking some of the rivers here. It is an amazing place. People think Taiwan is really boring. It is everything but. It's huge mountains. It looks like the Pyrenees in the middle of the island. It is phenomenal. And there is a ton of unrun whitewater here. We do some work here, and Taiwan's great. It's a democratic country, super clean, super friendly. Not the cheapest place to make stuff, but the quality is superb. A lot of the world's highest-end bicycles are made here. They do a lot of high-tech manufacturing here. Apple's biggest supplier is a Taiwan-based company. And then after this, we'll go to Vietnam.
Very cool. Well, if you have a piece of gear you want to know how it's made or whatnot, just send us a message. We are always into hearing that. Very cool, Weld.
Yeah.
All right, now...
A little jet lag, so I apologize if I'm not on my usual hyper-obnoxious self.
You're doing great. The connection's a little rough, but you're
that's super interesting, man. Hey, I think it's my connection that's really bad.
I can hear you just fine, Lewis. So while I got you here and can get this recorded, let's move into a little viewer mail. This comes in from Chris Grotmans, and I'd say this is more directed at you than anyone else, Lewis. Chris says, "Hi, gents. Thanks for having me on a few wingbacks. I love the most recent episode, Facility and the AGRG. It's actually, yeah. Anonymous boat review guy were extremely funny. I wanted to write in about one thing. I totally understand the environmental despair of the current administration, but had an idea for Lewis. I thought it might be powerful to provide one specific and actionable environmental advocacy task per episode. For example, Hammer Factor listeners are charged to write this specific representative at this specific email address regarding the specific issue. Think that might spin things towards a more positive direction and allow me and other listeners to feel like we are making small difference. Just an idea. I figured to pass it on. Congrats on the first sponsor and keep killing it with the show, Chris." Lewis?
Man, thanks, Grotmans. That's really good advice, man. I try hard to, give folks things to do and not be Debbie Downer all the time, even though I know that I probably end up being that way quite a bit. I think it's a little bit challenging because we, a lot of these things, the really important times to reach out to your representative or to the land management agencies or whoever it might be, it's really time sensitive a lot of the time, and it's a little hard to know, Grace, when our show is actually going to make it out the door. But I'm going to try really hard to do that, and we are definitely doing that every day at Outdoor Alliance. So if you're not on our email list, get on it. We're going to try to, we do send out action alerts all the time. We try really hard to target them. So, for example, like if there's, a committee in the House or the Senate that's voting on something, we're only going to email you if your member of Congress is on that committee. So if if your member of Congress is on House Natural Resources or Senate Energy and Natural Resources, you're going to be hearing from us a lot more frequently than other folks are. But that's good advice, and I'm going to redouble my efforts to turn things in a positive direction, because there are definitely plenty of fights worth fighting, and we're not cooked yet. So thanks, Grotmans. One other thing I could point people to is on our website, outdooralliance.org, there is an Advocacy 101 series that our super talented comms director, Tanya, put together. And it's just like how to write to your lawmaker, or how to, show up for a public hearing, how to call your representative, how to raise money for a group you care about. And it's all breaks things down super, super well. And it's worth checking out if you're kind of feeling a little bit helpless right now.
Does this sheet include things like showing up at events like in a American flag Speedo and a cowboy hat?
I bet you
your representative.
There's nothing in there about wearing tri-cornered hats or.
Very cool. How about 1% of those factor slush funds get sent to Outdoor Alliance over the next couple months?
I'll put 100% of the proceeds from Outdoor Alliance's sponsorship back into Outdoor Alliance.
Here we go. Tax dollars.
Hey, before we let you off the hook here, Lewis, tell us about, so Zinke and Trump are coming out Monday to make a big announcement about Bear's Ear. What are we looking at here? Is this just gossip? Is this really something that may happen? Fill our listeners in on that specific issue.
Yeah, so best we can tell, and this is all in the national news now, so it's looking pretty solid. Trump is going to Utah this Monday, December 4th, to radically scale back the Bears Ears National Monument and split up Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument into 3 much, much smaller monuments. Grand Staircase Escalante was designated in 1996, so this is more than 20 years old, and President Trump is going out there to basically roll back protections in these places. I think that there's a lot of potential coal extraction that could go on in Grand Staircase Escalante without these protections, which is, the idea that you would go and turn, some of the most beautiful protected public land in the country into an open pit coal mine. To me, that's the most retrograde, laughably disgusting thing I can imagine. But it sounds like this is all going down on Monday. We will have some interpretation of what happens up on our website as soon as we can on Monday. It's going to be, it is extremely questionable whether Trump has the legal authority to do what he is planning to do. And there are innumerable groups who are ready to sue, probably also on Monday. And Outdoor Alliance, we're sort of looking into possibly supporting some of those efforts in various ways. I think that we're probably not going to be like a party to any litigation, but we'll just have to wait and see. But we're not throwing up our hands on this. And I would definitely encourage everybody on Monday, if not sooner, to write to their members of Congress and share your outrage about what's going on out here, because it's pretty horrifying. So I don't know. Stay the news. Write your members of Congress. Let them know how you're feeling about things, and we'll keep you in the loop.
Go to outdooralliance.org, get on the email list. I'll make sure that there are links to that resource you were talking about in the show note, Lewis. Very good stuff. I don't know, it's nuts. I can't wait to talk about this on the next show, and I'm sure there'll be a email coming out very soon from either you or Kramer. I enjoy getting those.
Yeah, we've seen some like preliminary maps that got kind of leaked. I don't know if that's really gonna be what the final thing looks like or not, but it's quite a deal. And there's plenty of you can look at what they're talking about doing, and you can look at the proposed oil and gas leasing for what's currently Bears Ears, and it tells its own story.
All right. Well, we have a ton of good viewer mail here we're going to get into, but before we get in to our viewer mail, boom, we got a mid-show sponsor. Kaleva, am I saying that right? Kaleva. All right, so there's a story behind what Kaleva means, and Steve-O kind of filled me in on it, but I want to let you know that you can join Kaleva in Mexico for week-long whitewater trips. They're great trips for all levels of boaters. Come down and see what's beyond the imaginary big, beautiful wall. Led by Tom McEwen, who has been exploring Mexico for 30 years, he is supported by one of our other instructors like Dagger team member Bobby Miller, Liquid Logic team member Steve-O, and Tom's nephew, ladies man and Waka Bro, Eric Hansen. Explore jungles, deep canyons, legendary whitewater, everywhere from class 2 to 4+ rivers. Most trips are based on the Mexican-run eco-resort Adventure Tech, known for its great food, orange groves, proximity to the best whitewater in Mexico, etc. Come for the waterfalls, stay for the tacos. Check out the website at caleva.org. CALLEVA.org. Did I say that right?
Caleva.
Caleva?
Caleva.
All right. Caleva. CALLEVA.org. Yeah, so anyway, big thanks to those guys. Well, you did some trips down there with Tom back in the day.
There's so much to say about it. I don't even know where to begin.
I know we can spend the rest of the trip talking about what a good idea it is for you to go to Mexico with Caleva.
Kayaking is a weird sport in that you can take a trip to Mexico that's essentially the same thing as like going mountain climbing with like Reinhold Messner, or going skiing with like Scott Schmidt. This is what you'd be getting by going on a kayak trip with Tom McEwen. And this is, one of the founding figures of the modern sport of whitewater kayaking. And having spent countless years of my life in Mexico with Tom, I can assure you this will be an experience you will not forget. It'll be it's a commercially run expedition. It's the only way I could put it.
That's a really good way to put it.
Gelman, help me out here, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be, I think, an experience you'll never forget is the right description. I mean, Tom is somebody who, I mean, I think Weld and I have said this before on here, but if there's anyone who's had more of an influence on my life besides Tom and my parents, I would be hard-fixed to tell you who that is.
You will end up spending the night on the river without any sleeping gear or food.
Wait.
For some reason, you're gonna like it.
This is our sponsor. Fun family trips for anyone.
If your goal is to if you want to come home and feel like your desk job is a vacation, you should go to Mexico with Tom.
Super intriguing. Big thanks to those guys. They're gonna we'll be talking about them for the next few issues. So go to the website, type in your Hammer Factor special code, and you get $100 off your trip.
Just do it. It'll be a life-changing experience in a good way. We're not kidding around. It is an amazing opportunity.
There you go. Make sure to type in your Hammer Factor discount code there in the registration when you book your trip, and you get $100 off. So we have some viewer mail before we get into our celebrity guest, who is fresh off the mighty Indus River. Do you want me to scroll through these, or does anybody... Well, you had one that wasn't on my list. Who was that one from?
Jonathan Rue. He's written in a couple times, and I'll boil it down to the good question. Shrinkage rates of different color plastics in boats. We've all heard this, right? Red boats are smaller or whatever. True or false? Fake news? So I think what we should do is try and flex our Hammer Factor muscle a little bit here and call an expert and get this question answered on the fly.
Okay, so let me get the question straight. So we're seeing if there's different shrinkage weights if a blue boat is a different size than a yellow boat, correct?
Yep.
Okay, let me call Shane Benedict.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. This is the weight of the Hammer Factor. This is the kind of weight Hammer Factor has.
Let's hope he answers.
We have put on hold.
Let's hope he answers here.
Sir.
Shane. Hey, buddy. Can you
man, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, you're on the Hammer Factor with Lewis and Weld, and we have a quick question that we need your opinion on. All right.
What you got?
We have a listener who wants to know, are blue boats a different size? Is there different shrinkage rates than yellow boats, or is this all hype and just something that has just been passed down the line that's fake news?
There is some truth to that, but it was more in the past. We actually saw in one of our past plastic formulas that we had, the red definitely shrunk a little bit more. But when I say that, it's like over a foot. It's like an eighth or even less than that. It's like 1/16 of an inch difference. It's tiny. It's just a tiny difference. The thing that makes it different is that when they shrink, sometimes shapes have a lot to do with that. So like a concavity in the deck of a boat, like between foot bumps or something like that, that can actually shrink more into that curve, if that makes sense. And some colors seem to shrink into those curves a little bit more. So like that concavity might shrink a little bit more in the color red or a darker color than it would in, say, color yellow, something like that, a lighter color.
Okay.
So what's the best color yet?
Yeah. So what'd you say, Weld?
If you want the truest version of the design, what's the best color to get?
Okay, Weld says, so what if you want, because Hammer Factor Nation, you got to figure out, I am on the cell phone. I just randomly called Shane out of the blue here. So I'm having to convey, the question. So what is the most true to actual spec color, if there is one? If you had to say there was one, or is there not even one?
Oh, man. The way the boat is cooked and handled after it comes out of the oven has way more to do with it than the color of the plastic.
Okay. All right.
That's the bottom line. I would say yellow, is probably the truest color because it tends to shrink fairly evenly. But that's different from plastic manufacturer to plastic manufacturer. And without a doubt, the recipe and the way the boat is cooked in the oven and the way the boat is handled after it comes out of the oven has way more to do with the shape of the boat and the size, a whole bunch of different things.
Okay. Bam.
Right. So wait. One last question.
Hang on. We got one last question.
Okay.
Shane. Hang on.
Along the same lines, how do they make a party brap out of a brap?
Along the same lines, how do you make a party brap out of a brap?
Sorry, you broke up on me a little bit. What was that?
Along those same lines, talking about handling the boat after it comes out of the oven and whatnot, how do you make a party brap versus a regular brap?
It's as simple as that. We take it out of the exact same mold, and then we put a bunch of weight bags on it in a certain pattern to squish it right after it comes out of the oven. I mean, that's like straight out of back in the day when we used to do that on our play boat. They used to stick the bow into an actual oven and then jump up and down on it in my wool socks. But we do that because we're taking it right out of the oven at the factory, right out of the oven, and doing this right when it's cooked. It'll take that shape and hold it. Like when you do your squish your boat in your oven or whatever with your camp stove or whatever you're doing it with at home, it's really hard to really make that shape stay in the boat. It'll generally loosen up over time. But because we're taking it right out of the oven, it's part of its memory so that it stays in that concavity in the back of the party brap.
All right.
There we go.
Thanks, Shane.
All right. Big thanks, Shane.
Yeah, man.
All right.
You'll have fun now.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Just to set the record straight, green is the best color.
What?
You guys want to know which one's the best?
I'm trying to think if I had a green boat before.
I've never had a green boat. I've had.
Because I'm missing out.
I think blue's the best, but that's up for debate. All right, there you go. You want to know something? Boom, done. Value bombs.
We get answers. Should we call Zinky next?
Let's get him on the line, Lewis. You got him on your number.
Seriously.
He's your boy. You got to take care of these guys.
We're having a bit of a falling out at the moment. He might have to take my call.
God,
Facebook message him.
Coming from his iPhone, Josh Helton writes in, I heard the discussion on the latest Hammer Factor with Dave Fusilli about whether or not dimshits and brown claws are still popular or relevant. And I just wanted to let you guys and Dave Fusilli know that the brown claw is still inspiring us intermediate paddlers. My group, inspired by the brown claw, has recently started doing an inverted brown claw, which we call the ball grab.
There we go.
LJ's been doing that too, but he calls it raising the crown. You don't want to brown on the river, you want to raise the crown.
Speaking of somewhat same thing, my kids love Mid-Level Boating Crew. They have watched all the videos. Love it. They got Mid-Level Boating Crew has some hardcore fans at the Weld household.
So moving on, Simon Wyndham. He likes the ABRG, the boat review guy.
Speaking of which, what are we going to do about the sound quality? I heard a lot of complaints about the sound quality.
Yeah, well,
You're kind of sounding like the ABRG for me today, Weld. Can't tell if that's my computer or Taiwan.
Yeah.
Grace, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got him okay. On the recording, he's going to be okay. You'll have to listen to the show to hear what he said, Lewis. But anyway, I got a lot of complaints about the sound of our review guy, but a lot of people liked it. And Simon said he liked it. He just, although I disagreed with anyway, we could go into Anonymous Boat Review Guy, and we will. We'll bring him back on the show for sure once we fix his audio. But Simon, who's written in several times to the show, wants the beta on the Loki, the Mixmaster, the Ripper, and the Braps. So, Boat Review Guy, we need some slicey boat reviews.
I paddled the Ripper, and I loved it. Loved it. I thought it was great. It's very much along the lines of the Brap, but it just has. It seems a little more high performance. Geltman, I can't wait to see what you think of this thing.
I'm stoked to paddle it. Early reviews out here are extremely enthusiastic.
Yeah,
and I will say that design differences aside, every single kayaker needs to own one of these kayaks, like whether it's the Ripper or the Brap or the Antics or an RPM. Everyone needs to own one of those boats.
That's right. I could not agree more.
I agree.
Save your money. Don't get the Rockstar or whatever. Just get one of these boats and learn to play boat in one of these.
Moving on, Robert Fleischel writes in. He wants Teo Berman on the show. And specifically, he wants us to discuss Teo's website. Now, have you guys been to Teo's website, teoberman.com?
No, is he selling something?
Are there shirtless modeling photos?
Yes, that's what sticks out. Is there's like 3 or 4 kayaking pictures and then a bunch of like Teo flexing with no shirt on, which I'm fine with, So we'll get him on the show and get to the bottom of that. I like that one. Thanks for that, Robert. Oh, man, we got a lot of viewer mail. I love the viewer mail. We can't get to all of them on the show. Coming from the Pacific Northwest, Paul Heffernan. You ever paddle with Paul Heffernan out there, Lewis?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Heffernan's a legend, man.
Yeah.
High water Paul.
Yeah. So, Paul Heffernan recently started listening to the podcast. I love it. In one of the recent episodes, you mentioned you had sent out Grace's 8-week training program in the newsletter. Has that already been sent out? If you can make it accessible to someone like me, who is a little late in the game to getting the newsletter. That was over.
Grace's 8-week training program from like 1983. Imagine Grace and some wrapped around his torso, jogging, some speed bag work. Chelsea with like cracking eggs in a blender. That kind
of. What's funny is this email just came in, and it was like literally 1 year ago I started talking about making the 8 weeks out training program. But it is the off season, and I am going to do it. And I'll tell you what, I have some good stuff to put in it this year, because this year I actually did a training program for the Green Race, and I was pretty proud of the way it turned out because I broke my ribs in March, and I didn't paddle until July 4th, and then I couldn't paddle for 2 weeks after that because it hurt. So basically I had this August, September, October regimen, and I pretty much went from zero to hero. So I think it's worth sharing. I think somebody could get something out of it if I can do it, and it's the off season, so there you go, Paul. I'm on it, man. Long time no see.
I have a like when I get ready for an expedition, I have a few gems to hand out there too.
We've got a nice email here that was sent in about paddle offset. I'm not going to read it. Unless you guys want me to, but it's from an article.
We've already put that subject to bed.
It's closed. We're done.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Anyway, this article from Professor Paddle says basically 30 degree or less, no matter what your boating style is. So
that's wrong.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that article is wrong. I don't know anything about the professorpaddle.com, but somebody should
Seattle boating group.
Somebody should shut that site down. Okay. And now to our celebrity guest, none other than Brendan Wells from Mountain Mind Collective. Brendan is coming at us from Costa Rica, so we apologize for any of the hiccups in the connection. Big thanks to Brendan, and Brendan's going to tell us about a recent trip. He just got home from the Indus River in Pakistan. So, Brendan, where are you based out of?
So I'm based out of the Columbia River Gorge. I grew up in Trout Lake, which is right at the headwaters of the White Salmon, and grew up paddling there pretty much all my life. Went up to Bellingham for a little bit for school and paddled around there, and then naturally moved back to the Gorge and kind of based out of there since. The White Salmon a little wide out the back door, and then been traveling a bunch, all my life.
Very cool. So you just got home from a trip to Pakistan. Can you give us a little detail on that?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start from the beginning. We kind of talked about this mission for a while. Rush Sturgis was putting together as maybe a short film, maybe another feature-length film. But anyway, I got the call a couple weeks before. It was like, it's happening. We're going to meet Aniol over in Pakistan. He's already been there for a little while. So we got on a flight, and yeah, from the beginning, I was like super blown away by the place. Yeah, just the flight from Islamabad up to Skardu, the put-in for the Indus, it's one of the coolest commercial flights I've ever been on. It's like, I felt like I was in an Alaskan bush plane. You're going up you're flying up the Indus Valley, and you don't get quite up to altitude, even in a big commercial jet. So you have like K2 and Nanga Parbat, these like 28,000 foot peaks, like right out your window, and then you're looking down into the Indus, and it looks like a tiny little creek from up there. But yeah, we flew into Skardu and started the adventure from there.
Well, let me back up a little bit. What are the challenges of going to Pakistan? How is it? What's the visa process like?
Yeah, so it was definitely a challenge. The biggest challenge is like talking to all my friends and family about going there. It's like, what are you thinking going to Pakistan? But I did my research and we talked about it a lot, and all in all, it's relatively safe right now. And the visa process is pretty extensive. It's really complicated, and if anyone goes over there, I recommend taking your time to get it. But we all got our visas except for Tyler. He didn't get his. I think they looked at his passport and thought he was a pirate or his video or something. So he wasn't able to come. But the rest of us got our visas just in the nick of time. And yeah, it's a complicated process. Like most out to lunch forms you have to fill out, and bank account information, all this stuff. But it's really not that hard. And we all got it. So I guess they're cool with Americans coming over there, which was our biggest concern.
Cool. And once you're on the ground, do you have someone with you, or are you just, they stamp your visa and it's go have at it, son?
Yeah, so most people that go over there, most foreigners, go with a tour group, and Skardu is like kind of the base camp for K2 missions. So there's a couple of tourism groups you can work with there. Fortunately, Aniol had been there the last year and kind of figured out all the logistics and found a really good tour company, Golden Peak, that helped us out with everything. So they basically picked us up. They actually flew with us, one of their guys from Islamabad to Skardu, to make sure everything was cool. We got our boats on the plane. And then once we got there, we had 2 vans, because we had a pretty big crew of like 9 of us, plus our drivers and a guide with us the whole time. But we had 2 vans shuttling us around. And yeah, logistically super easy and super cheap. It's just like, Nepal or somewhere cheap.
Killer. And so tell us about the river trip. How many days is it? What are the logistics like? And kind of paint that picture.
Yeah, so you can do it in a lot of different ways. We kind of took our time on it, and so we did it in 7 days from putting in just below Skardu, about an hour downstream of Skardu, skip some of the flat water, then put on, and then it's 7 days of solid white water. You could definitely do it a little bit shorter if you or someone in the group knew the run, but we were taking our time filming, obviously. And the group there's some Brits and some Americans, actually a group from all over the place that came right after us, and they did it in 7 days as well, without filming. So that's kind of like the standard time. You could definitely do it quicker if you push harder, but we were honestly not doing too long. We get days, just like 4 or 5 hours, focusing on filming. And the best part about it is you run all this big whitewater. It's a 7-day trip, like out in the remote middle of the Himalayas, but you have a highway going down. Well, not a Pakistani highway, so dirt with a little bit of mixed pavement road going down the whole thing. So our drivers and 3 cameramen up top followed us down, and every day we were able to hike out, go sleep under a roof, and paddle light boats the whole time, which was super, super cool for 7 days in big water like that.
Nice. What kind of CFS and what kind of gradient or what kind of whitewater? It was. So it was like definitely some of the biggest, by far the biggest whitewater I've ever paddled, personally. And we were trying to, CFS wise, we were trying to compare it to a lot of things. Obviously, the closest we were going off of was the Stikine, and we all kind of agreed that it was bigger than the Stikine. We were guessing like 15 grand at the minimum, but I'm thinking more like 20 to 25,000 CFS in there. And one of the steepest big volume rivers, I think, is really possible to paddle. I think if it was any steeper, it would just be like unrunnable rapid after unrunnable rapid. So pretty much the steepest big water on Earth, I think. And how many rapids you guys portage altogether over 7 days?
So, man, I didn't count how many portages I had. I was also sick a couple of the days. But let's see, Benny, I think he only portaged 3 or 4 rapids on the whole run, which was pretty, like, he was on fire out there for sure, and ran some of the biggest rapids I've ever seen. Definitely seen paddled. So yeah, you can do it without portaging much, but the rest of the group probably portaged at least like 10 plus times. Aniola was up there with Benny, but he took a pretty big swim right off the bat, and I think that might have held him back a little bit. But Benny was just completely in his element there. He's a big water master and so cool to watch out there. And yeah, he went bigger than ever.
It's so cool to see somebody just fully dialed into the flow state like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm definitely, from the Northwest, more of a creeker and love the big water, but don't feel as comfortable out there. But it's so cool to run a river like that with Benny, who's like, that's his jam, and to talk through rapids with him and figure out what's going on in his mind is super cool. And then to see him go out there and run this rapid that no one else is and absolutely crushes is pretty amazing to watch. And you'll just have to wait to see all the footage, I guess. But
so you guys are going this time of year because the snow is starting to harden up and the water's starting to drop, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, Annie Hill was there for like 3 weeks before the rest of the crew got there. He was there with his brother and Mikkel, and they had high water. So you can just wait for a filter. The mountains waiting for the glaciers to start freezing up and the water to drop. And you can definitely go there later than we did, but any earlier, you're going to have really, really big water. Like I'm sure you've seen in some of the photos that Daniel and his bro are throwing up.
Man, are you guys hearing this here in Brendan? Well, Lewis?
I'm struggling pretty hard.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Shoot.
I am too, because this is super interesting stuff. I really want to hear a little bit more about this. So, Long Rapids. So, do you think that do you think that this is going to be a trip that is going to start seeing more and more numbers? Do you feel like logistically and it's something that's obtainable to more and more people, or is it, or what do you think the future of paddlers on this river is?
Yeah, I mean, just this year is already kind of blowing up. There is, I know, of at least 3 groups that were there. We did the Indus trip. Another group put on a couple of days after us, and then there was another group that went, and I don't know if they were going to knock off a couple sections of the Indus or just paddle some of the other creeks around there that are super quality too. After our Indus went to the Astor and the Hunter River, which are both more creaky, but super quality, and there's a ton more to explore there. So I'm already seeing, the increase in people exploring, and I think after, soon this media comes out and people start to get this idea that is actually pretty safe and will be super easy, super cheap, that's going to blow up for sure.
Very cool. That's always been on the list, but I've never made it.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
Well, I have.
Is there any concern,
Go ahead, Will.
any concern you guys are going to get hijacked, kidnapped, or is that? I mean, did you guys have any kind of armed supervision, anything like that?
Brendan, did you ever feel threatened?
No, it was definitely weird to the whole time there's this super strong military and police presence. The conclusion was just that they're super overprotective. So there's like a place for some of the drives, we'd have an armed guard sit shotgun with an AK in his lap. But all in all pretty safe. The border
Man, this is such a bummer.
Yeah.
Lewis, John, are you guys hearing this? Man, this is some good stuff
I know,
here.
it's gold. I know, it's gold. I can barely hear him.
Yeah, likewise. I guess I'm doing a little better at least. Man, so rad. What am I doing with my life? What are we doing?
I don't know. Kelvin, this sucks.
Yeah, I'm over it.
Dude, I'm just raking in T-shirts.
I know. You need to cut Weldon in on the fortune so we can all go to Pakistan and then straight to Costa Rica.
Right. And maybe work in Alaska for a little bit.
Hang on, let's give Brendan 1 second here.
We're going to Peru for Christmas.
Nice. Where are you going? Whole
Kara
family?
and the kids. We're going to Cuzco. We're flying in like the 21st. We're staying through over, till like the 6th of January.
Sick. What do you guys have on the itinerary down there?
I don't know. I don't know. We're with the usual amount of suspects down there. And we're trying to put something together. It's kind of the rainy season. I mean, it's not really the best time to go kayaking, but we're gonna do the typical Weld thing. It'll be a bunch of miserable expeditionary type things with 9 and 12-year-olds.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Brendan, can you hear us now? Mr. Wells, can you hear us? Can you guys hear him?
Not yet. Saw him for a second there.
I saw him for a second.
Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah. All right. I think we're back. So, forgive the connection here, Hammer Factor listeners. We have currently on the line people from Central America, Taiwan, Southeast U.S., Northwest U.S. I think where we cut off, Brendan, was, did you ever feel threatened over there? What was that kind of scene like?
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy being over there. Like up in Skardu, there's a huge military base, and as well as get the takeout. So there's a suit everywhere. They're really, really friendly. Like love foreigners and happy to shake your hand and happy you're there. As with all the people, they're super friendly and it's like happy to see foreigners and any tourists there. So people are awesome. And there's definitely, like, as I started to read the Times there, the newspaper, there's still some stuff going on in the borders, especially like Afghan border. But where we were, it all felt pretty safe. There's police checkpoints all the time and super strong military presence, but I never felt threatened whatsoever. It was definitely kind of crazy, like some of the drives we had an armed armed police escort with us in shotgun with an AK in his lap. But all in all, I think our concern was, if something was to happen in Fortner, it would be a huge deal. So they're just super overprotective to make sure nothing's happening.
I want to back up just a little bit here. I mean, obviously you've dedicated a big part of your life to paddling and making it happen on these trips and whatever. Give us one of your most low points before we get into the high points. Give us a low point when you were like, oh man, I got to do something. I got to like hang up the boots here with this kayak. This is silly.
He needs to go to nursing school. That's what usually pilots decide they're going to do. Tell us the point at which you really thought of going to nursing school.
Well, so actually the first thing that comes to mind was a mission I actually I did with old Louis G there and my brother up in BC, where we got completely skunked on a run I believe you've spent a little time in as well, Grace, and ended up in a couple day portage. Took us at least 2 days to go all of 2 miles around this gorge, Forest Kerr. And that was definitely one of the most brutal points in my kayaking life. Running out of water in the middle of Devil's Club, and oh man.
I look back on that really fondly, man.
I look back on sneaking past the dam site and climbing on their massive cable down to the river pretty fondly.
I was thinking about one thing from that portage the other day is, I don't know what made me think of it, but we had snuck through this dam site. We'd spent 2 days portaging. We ran through the pump house site and are like lowering our boats down to the river, down this last like maybe, I don't know, 500-foot gully to get down to the river. And in my tired state, I somehow just like missed the grab loop of my boat, clipping it onto a rope as I was going to lower it, and dropped my boat and like almost killed Brendan like 100 feet below me with my boat, and almost sent it into the river, which would have been just like the end, just like we would have had to just like give ourselves up to the guys and like just put our tails between our, I would have had my tail between my legs. I'm sure you guys would have kept going.
Yeah.
So there were some low points in there for you too, Lewis. What
Well,
about
it all turned out okay, but I was really embarrassed, and
there was a lot of great points of that too. I think one of my favorites was once we actually got to the river, recovered your boat, and we're floating past the dam site. The bus full of workers went cruising by. We just waved them on and floated into the wilderness out to towards the confluence with the Stikine.
What about on the flip side, Brendan? What about that aha moment where you're like, you know what, I'm not wasting my time with this kayaking thing?
Man, for me, it's like it's any time that I get to go explore a new place, and whether it's a new river that hasn't been run or just a personal first descent for me. And like I just had that most recently going to Pakistan. The last couple of years, I've gotten to explore around the Himalayas some more, but the Pakistan was kind of special because I know that no kayakers really spent any time there in the last couple of decades, and there's so we're kind of reopening it up, as well as there's like a ton of rivers to explore there. We had to drive back to Islamabad instead of flying, and driving down the Indus, there's this tributary after tributary of which I think very few of the rivers have been explored. So that's the aha moment for me, is anytime I get to see a new place and start to get to know it a little bit more like home.
I got to get out. I got to get a plane ticket.
Yeah, right.
Super inspiring, Brendan. So we're kind of running out of time here, and I wish we had a better connection because there's a whole lot more that I want to ask you. I know there's probably more that Lewis and Weld want to ask you, but you may already said this, but as far as kayaking, what's got you the most fired up these days? What are you dreaming about down there?
Yeah, for me, like I said, it's just about exploration more for me, and I have a big project plan to spend most of the next year up in Alaska. I spent quite a bit of time, through working up there, growing up there as a kid with my parents' business up there. So it's got a special place in my heart, but I really haven't got to explore many of the rivers. We got to do a couple first descents. The big one was on the Chitna, And that one, the Chittenden River, out in the Wrangell St. Elias Mountains, and that one just like really opened my eyes to the exploration that is waiting in Alaska. So I'm really excited to go up there this summer with the crew. And my brother's been exploring a lot, and we have a bunch of rivers we're going to go knock off. Some that have been run before, many that are going to be brand new. So that's where I'm really focusing on is, but it feels like a whole different country up there, and all the access out there is super fun. You get to fly in bush planes or bushwhack through miles of Devil's Club. Hopefully the bush plane in most cases, but yeah, that's kind of the next step for me is getting to know that state better.
Very rad. Lewis,
Yeah.
Weld?
I could open up conversations that could go on for another hour or so.
I can too. And we got Brendan, we got to
Yeah.
get you back on the line when number one, Lewis isn't in Taiwan. I mean, Weld's not in Taiwan, and we can get a better connection because there are a lot of questions, and I'd love to get a lot deeper into your trip because we're leaving a lot on the table here. But
Yeah.
we're struggling.
Well,
with
I
the
hope I
connection.
give you guys a good little taste of it, and definitely stay tuned. You know, the whole purpose of our trip over there was this film project that Rush put together, and I think that it's going to turn out into a feature-length kayaking film, kind of about Scott Lindgren's journey to explore these 4 sacred rivers that come off of Mount Kailash. Is like the most sacred river in Tibet to the Buddhists and Hindu and Jain and Bon, all those religions, and he's been on this mission to all his life to paddle the 4 sacred rivers that come off in the cardinal directions: the Sutlej, the Karnali, and of course the Brahmaputra or the Sangpo, which I'm sure everyone here listening has heard the story of the Sangpo. So the Indus was kind of his last of the 4 in this life's journey. So we got him over there, and he had a great run, was firing it up. And yeah, you'll have to get the rest of the story in this film that's coming out, but it's going to be pretty epic. We had one of the strongest, if not the strongest, media team ever for a kayaking mission with 2 guys on the road filming. I was on the river filming. We had Rafa flying his drone over pretty much every single rapid. So the footage is insane. The story is amazing. And I reviewed it. Yeah, I hope I gave you guys a good little taste of it, and stay tuned for that film coming out, Legacy. And that'll probably answer the rest of your questions, I hope.
Well, there is a lot more to talk about. I could talk about expedition kayaking forever, but where can our viewers find out more information about you, Brendan? Do you have an athlete page, or how do people follow you?
Yeah, I got an athlete page on Facebook and Instagram, Brendan Wells Kayak on both. And a little plug for my latest project I got going with the one and only Eric Parker, Forms of Water. Is the film that we're working on over the next 4 years. It's going to have lots of good adventures from all over Alaska and beyond. So, yeah, keep up there, and stoked to get back in the line with you guys here soon.
Super rad. Well, thanks for coming on from down there. Super impressive, and man, I hope to get on the river with you sometime.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, Brendan. Well, we will
Thanks,
talk
dude.
to you later.
Yeah.
Cool. Later, guys.
Man, I've just had the worst connection for this whole show. I'm like,
Me too. It's wearing on me. It's wearing on me because I really wanted to get in deep. I had a whole big interview. I wanted to get super granular with Brendan, but you know, it is what it is here in Hammer Factor Nation. I mean, but one thing we do need to talk about. Have you guys ever heard of the Iceman kayak race, South Carolina?
We have.
Well, there's a killer T-shirt right here. This one right here has got Lewis's name on it, and the Iceman Challenge really did big time by sending all 3 of us a T-shirt. So I love all these grassroots events, you guys. I know you make fun of me for the T-shirt thing, but I'm a big supporter of all the grassroots events, and these guys gave
They sent
T-shirts to all of
stuff
us.
right before I left, but I didn't have a chance to really get into it because I was like leaving that day or the next day. Tell us about the race, though. I've heard of the Iceman race.
It's the Iceman. It's a race on the Saluda River, and it's class 2-3. But they do they get out there in the cold, and there'll be like 30 guys lining up with tubes, and they'll tube a rapid, and they got canoes, and just everybody gets together, and they have a big hoedown. So check out the.
What counts as cold in South Carolina?
It's cold. It's
50s,
65.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be freezing at night. That's all I'm gonna say.
That sounds awful.
Check out the Iceman Challenge, and they got some cool T-shirts. I'll show them to you guys. There's one with like vanilla ice on it. It's pretty cool. Iceman Challenge. They threw us all T-shirts. Love these grassroots events. The new promo video for Smalls to the Walls just came out.
New boat company. Who's the new boat company?
Well, I'm trying to get the message right here.
Who's Dope Kayaks too? Have you heard of these guys?
No. Okay, it's called Varus Kayaks. Varus Kayaks, and the new boat is called the Gladiator. So you can check it out at varuskayaks.com.
They spell that.
VERUS kayaks.com.
Someone from Dope Kayaks, please write us and tell us what you're all about. Because from my Instagram, something or another, I saw an ad for Dope Kayaks, and I was like, someone I'd even heard of before.
Okay, Dope Kayaks. There you go. Let's hear all about them. Yeah. Now for your favorite segment of the show, the rants and the raves. Lewis, you look happy. What do you got?
I'm going to rave about all of the under the radar charters out there. I feel like we have a lot of kayaking celebrities on, and I love all of those guys dearly. I feel like there are plenty of people out there who have not yet managed a solid role, yet still have a GoPro and an athlete page on Facebook. And that's cool too. But I feel like there's so many awesome paddlers out there who care not one lick about getting attention for what they're doing. And
right.
Yeah, Paul Heffernan, like the Paul Heffernans of the world, like the Team Beers, the Oliver Grossmans,
yeah,
Ryan Casey's, like
Soulboat.
Those guys, man, those guys are the soul of the sport. And yeah, I feel like sometimes we do a lot of promoting of everyone on here, and I feel like it's just good to shout out those guys.
Hey man, I'll second that one. I mean, that's the Hammer Factor Nation. So, for what it's worth. I have a pretty good rant if you want me to get into it.
All right.
So there was an article that got discussed and thrown around on Facebook about Pisgah National Forest. And Lewis, I kind of expect you to do something about this. And there was a public hearing meeting, and the National Forest head ranger proposed starting a fee system for mountain bikers.
Did this have something to do with bags of dog poop?
I don't know. It very well could. That's probably the impetus for the whole thing. But anyway, proposed this fee system, okay? And I was like, and kind of the article talked about it, and there was somebody from the Wildlife Resources Commission. They're like, well, hunters pay for access to the forest, and there's several different ways to think about it. Number one, I'm just going to go right into my rant, all right? But I'm not. So number one, when you buy a hunting license, you're paying for a fish hatchery, and you're paying for cessational habitat, and you're paying for biologists to study deer diseases, and you're paying for game wardens and people to enforce those licenses, and boat ramps, and the boats for them to drive around, and the patrol trucks, and all kinds of things. So you're not...
And you're taking something off the landscape.
You're actually harvesting. You're actually growing. You're paying to grow something and to harvest it, for all intents and purposes. So it's not just an access. So that's one little point I just want to clarify and throw out there. I'm not anti that or anything like that, but it's different than access what you get with a hunting license. But people that I know, people that I ride bikes with and whatnot, were chiming in and saying, well, it's time for us to pay our share, and we should, I could see getting behind supporting this. And I'm saying no. There's no reason to get behind this and to support this. We already pay into this. So I guess my rant is,
the National Forest motto is to conserve and serve the users of the public lands or whatever. What could be better than just a good trail system for people to run and ride their bikes? You don't have to pay extra to go do that. That's what it's for. Allocate the money. There's plenty of money there. Make that happen. That's my rant. We don't need to pay to go recreate on our public lands. That's it.
Yeah, man, we have a lot of conversations about fees. There's a much greater diversity of opinion. I'm with you, man. I'm like staunchly anti-user fee, but especially with the mountain bikers, there's like a real diversity of opinion out there, and people think like maybe if we pay some fees, we'll have some more ownership over what's going on here. They'll do more trail construction, and there's something to that. But I agree with you, man. It's like, I think that it really, like especially the stuff going on with this proposal from Zinke to massively ramp up user fees at the national parks. And it's like, these are public lands, and nobody should be priced out from going and enjoying public lands. And it's like, like us, like we're going to go out there and we're going to pony up $100 for the annual pass to go to all the national parks because like we're public lands users. But there are people who might want to go once a year, and there's families who are, maybe getting rad outdoors isn't their thing, and it's like those people should not be priced out. And it's just like creating this expectation that public lands are something that have to like generate revenue, whether it's by charging people to go there or cutting down trees or oil and gas. That's bullshit. I'm with you, man.
How does the lower Yak use fee fit into all this? Something we've been paying for years. We pay to put on the river, and we pay to get a shuttle bus off the takeout.
It's a state park up there. So, I mean, that's, one of the hazards of what we're always talking about with turning over national public lands to the states is then the states are way more liable to do things like, charge an access fee.
And that money doesn't go back to kayaking. It goes back to the state, right?
It goes into the general fund.
Yeah, I couldn't say for Ohio Pile, but it's hard to say what the legality would be if you were like, just putting on the river on private property and taking off on private property and not touching the state park. I mean, that's one you'd have to think through. But
could you run the falls then if you didn't put on a state park property and didn't touch their ground?
I think I'd have to get out the law books to sort that one through. But
all right, that's a homework for next.
You might have an argument. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to go do it, but you might.
Next week you will, or next episode.
There's so much stuff to talk about, to continue to talk about. There's always another hammer factor. Weld, can you close us down here with a solid rant or a solid rave?
Yeah. I'm going to give you some red meat here with the rant. What you've been waiting for. All right, we're ending the Thanksgiving season, and we've heard this term thrown out a lot, but this is a term that gets used throughout the year, and it needs to come to an end. You ready? It's with gratitude. You are no longer allowed to use that term with gratitude. You know why? It's a humble brag. That's all it is. Okay? If you're writing emails or Facebook posts or whatever, and you're signing off with gratitude, you're just bragging. That's it. Cut it out. Thank you. You guys look completely nonplussed. I'm surprised this is falling on dead ears. I thought you'd be really on board with this.
I think I haven't crossed paths with this phenomenon.
You haven't?
No, I think people who do things like that are probably just cut out of my world.
Time people saying with gratitude, like they've reached some kind of spiritual enlightenment beyond the boundaries of human emotion that you can't understand. It's nauseating.
Have I ever done this, Weld?
No, I'm thinking of one person.
Namaste, John. I know you are.
Is it okay to just say thanks?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have gratitude, right? I know you're white, you're American, you're born in the second half of the 21st century or the 20th century. You have everything you've ever wanted. I know. We get it. You haven't done any more than anybody else. That's it. I thought you guys would really be cheering me on here, but this is falling flat. I'm hearing crickets.
I'm laughing.
I want the listeners out there to help me out with this one and tell me your own with gratitude story and how you're sick of it.
Well, with gratitude, sign up for the Hammer Factor newsletter. I will have the first of my 8 weeks out training program coming at you soon. Big thanks to Canoe and Kayak and Kaleva for
Kaleva.
Jesus.
I do know that however you want to say it, it's CALLEVA.org. So check them out, canoekayak.com. Thank you so much, Lewis. Weld, when do you get home so we can actually have a real conversation?
Shoot, another week or so. I don't even know what today. Yeah, I fly home in a week.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll catch you when you get home. Thanks for listening to Hammer Factor 36, and apologize for all of the scratchiness, but we'll get it sorted out.